Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. And again, thank you to Shanti Davis Center and Sunny for hosting, and Sheila for making this possible as well with Shanti Davis Center. And thank you to all of you for being present. So let's take a moment to have a little meditation for our motivation. So finding a comfortable posture, again, with the spine as extended as possible. And if you'd like, you can lightly close your eyes. And people will be popping on, that's fine. Just begin to deepen your respiration. And as you do this, allow the distractions from the day to float off as best as you can. Can you bring yourself here, present into your space? Just reflect for a moment how your week went without any goods or bads or judgments about it, just observing how the week went since our last class. And if you need a little better orientation for the week, that you weren't happy with parts of the week, consider that in your motivation. What might brighten up your mind? What might make the mind more positive, let's say? Maybe things went well and you'd like to further enhance that as well. Can we roll that into our motivation right now for our time together and any time left in the remainder of your day? So really setting the direction of what's called a Mahayana motivation, where we're focused on benefiting all living beings. That's the focus of a Mahayana, greater or universal vehicle motivation. The best way for us to do that, to benefit all living beings, is as a fully enlightened being, a Buddha. Buddha, Sanskrit term for fully awake. Think about what might help you fully wake up. And can you make a commitment in your mind right now that you're going to try your best in the coming days, in the coming weeks, months, in your practice, to align yourself more with those things that help you better wake up, putting you in a positive direction towards that fully enlightened state. But for the real purpose, to benefit all living beings. So if you like that motivation, please set that in your mind as best as you can, and or consider another motivation for this time right now. But as much as possible, directing the mind in a positive direction. So we were last talking about acceptance, which is the fourth pillar of mind as far as the pillars of joy. Just reflecting right now, acceptance. What sorts of things do you think you don't accept about yourself? And what if you observed those tendencies, those behavioral traits or qualities in a friend of yours? How would you treat that friend? Would you have some acceptance to them? What if you don't have the acceptance with your friend? You notice the tension that creeps up in your mind that could layer some tension in your relationship? What if that's the best they can do? And just ask yourself, is there anything you can do to change this up with your friend, to change that quality in them? Maybe compassionate speaking with them about it, how it makes you feel. If there's some action you could possibly do, can you make a commitment to yourself to do the action with compassionate wisdom? And what if you assess and there's really not much you can do? We can't change other people. Can you practice letting go? Rather than allowing it to disturb your mind? And bringing the direction now back on yourself. What's possible for you to change up that you'd like to change? And can you realistically plan a course that's realistic again, possible? Make a commitment to yourself that you're going to work on this. This is something you can work on. What if there's something about you that it's going to take longer to change or it's not possible to change? Can we accept that part of ourselves? Can you even imagine now giving yourself that kind of psychic hug you need or that you may like? Just imagine. Please relax. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. So, just to recap, from the 4 qualities of the mind we've been talking about: perspective, humility, humor, acceptance. Just asking any questions, thoughts. And again, from the homework, some of you are popping in the homework that we sent out midweek. Thank you to Sunny and Sheila. How did it work this week with those, especially humility, humor, and acceptance? Again, humility can help us overcome anger and frustration. Humor can help us with sadness and grief. These are obstacles to joy, right? Sadness and grief, anger, frustration. Acceptance helps us with despair and hopelessness. Any comments as we get started?
I had a good experience this week with humor. And I sort of thought it interesting as the least spiritual of the 3 efforts, I suppose. And especially with life just being so ridiculous. So I woke up in the middle of the night, as I often do, and thought about humor stuff. And I went and watched again the Bo Burnham thing, which is a little comedy special. It's called Inside, and it's all about the pandemic and our lives now. And it made me belly laugh repeatedly, like full on, like jiggle everywhere kind of laugh. And that had a very positive impact on me. And I was just kind of intrigued to stop and to intentionally seek that out. It felt sort of grounding, which was really nice.
Nice. Humor is so helpful. It really is a good medicine. So thank you, Ross. I think it's really, really helpful. If we can find, constructive ways with humor. I had a couple of meetings this past week, the past few days, and they really, started in a very dense place, but when you just take a little, like a turkey baster, and you just metaphorically insert some humor at an appropriate time. Again, it reminds you of the lightness, that this is about enlightenment, not in heavyment, that so helpful to find the right way, though, the right place. Sometimes it's, there's times when you don't want to insert humor, somebody's talking to you about something serious. But thank you, Ross. I think that's really helpful. What else? Any other comments? Wiley, please.
I was just wanting to share that ever since the news about Thich Nhat Hanh's death on Friday, all of the memes going around the internet and recordings and poetry, I think is a great way to use acceptance, how he wrote so beautifully about it. And so that's just what's been on my mind for the last few days.
So nice. Yes, very much. I mean, 95 years old, we accept, we knew this was coming. He went back to Vietnam. He had some kind of mental brain issue, so he couldn't speak. And, this is coming to all of us, by the way. Death is coming to all of us. Talking to Ross earlier about, we're all terminal. Sorry to break it to you, but we are. But again, I don't have to stay there. It's about motivating me. What can I do now? If you have a good situation, looking at all of you right now, the fact that you met the Dharma, I think you've got a pretty good situation. And I don't know all your stories. I know we all suffer, some of us in tremendous ways. I get it. But again, can you just, have that little more evolution this time around that's going to get you a better thing next time. Each step could be better, meaning more and more benefit for others, more help, that can be exciting. So the acceptance, definitely, and somebody with a being like Thich Nhat Hanh, an extraordinary being to be on the planet with. I don't know how many of you ever heard him speak in person. I remember one of the things I drive differently because of him. I drive differently. I heard him speak in California many years ago. And one of the things that also, so many gems that came through, but I was doing a lot of driving in California really fast at the time. And I'd gotten a speeding ticket and then suddenly there in the teaching, and he says, and he speaks very slowly. Some of you are aware. And he said, when your car goes fast, you go fast. I mean, that's simple. I drove differently after that. Because you ever notice those of you that are fat like leadfoots? There you are, zipping around. And how do you feel in the car? You're zipping around in your mind. Got to pass that guy, got to be first, I got to be, get out of my way. I wasn't really aggressive driver, but like that. I'm not angry at other people when I drive. So again, that was helpful, but he had so many gems. I posted something on my social media feeds about some quotes about, I forget what the quote was about, waking up with the good heart, I think, something like that, about thinking about today. What can I do to help others today? He was just beautiful. Mindfulness. So thank you, Wiley, for mentioning him and bringing that to mind and working with that. Okay, so let's, and we can take more comments as well. What I want to do is I want to talk about now, we're moving into, and we have 2 more sessions, I believe. Is that right? I think there's 2 more sessions. Sorry, Sunny, you're muted. Is it?
We have 1 more session after today. Today is session number 4.
That's right.
And we'll have session number
tonight,
5. Yeah.
Tonight and next week, exactly. So what I want to do is talk about the pillars of the heart. And forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. Forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. We're going to talk about forgiveness a lot tonight, and the other 3, we have a lot to say, but we have gotten touched on gratitude and generosity a bit, and in many other classes too, but we will talk about those next week as well, and we'll probably get to gratitude as well tonight. So what I want to do with forgiveness, I want to bring a video in, and I'm going to share my screen. This is His Holiness and Archbishop Desmond Tutu about forgiveness. Okay, can you see that? You can just nod. See the video? Great. Let me just close that. Here we go.
Forgiveness does not mean forget. You should keep memory about the sort of negative thing. But because of that, there is possibility to develop anger or hatred. That control. That is the meaning of forgiveness. Almost natural response is when I'm hit, I hit back. When you have been refined, you put yourself in the shoes of the other. It is totally wrong. The practice of tolerance and practice of forgiveness is signs of weakness. Totally wrong. 100% wrong. Or 1000% wrong. Isn't it? Yeah, well, I mean, this is forgiveness. It's a sign of strength. Isn't it? Absolutely. Yes, I was just going to say, those who say forgiving is a sign of weakness haven't tried it. Share the joy. Are you in?
Okay. Who wants to share the joy? Right? Think about it. It's a lovely clip. And but think about some of these concepts we're talking about. Strength in relation to forgiveness. His Holiness equated it with the word tolerance. Huge word. Like which comes right after acceptance. Like I like how acceptance and then forgiveness is the first pillar of the heart. I find acceptance and forgiveness go together so well. And the reason I started with yourself, what don't you accept in yourself? It starts there. Some of us are tightly bound, right? You need to be perfect, okay? Best to give that up. And the reason is, as human beings, we are not perfect. That's a given. That's a fact. That is life in samsara. We are not perfect. I'm not laying a trip on you and saying you're anything less than glorious, okay? But let's acknowledge that we make mistakes due to our mistaken view. Okay? We don't interpret reality accurately because we don't have a direct perception of emptiness. Okay? So it's just a given. It's a normal thing. It's normal, actually, for the human condition. If we can accept it, but work on it, okay? And I loved when Archbishop Desmond Tutu says, when you're refined, in the video clip, when you're refined, think about refining yourself. You know, some people I know now are retiring. We all know that word. I'm retiring. He's retired, right? What are you going to do in your retirement? Okay. I prefer to think of retooling, like refinement, like I'm working on myself to get better. I'm fine tuning, fine tuning. You know, I'm going to bring the picture a little clearer and clearer and clearer into focus. And one day I'm a Buddha. One day I'm a Buddha. Buddha's perfection. Buddha flawless. Buddha omniscient. Buddha fearless. That's a Buddha mind. Okay. That's not us right now, but we can aspire to that. Okay. So again, as you're moving along that path, what's the point of pretending you're perfect and then getting upset with yourself when you're not and you make a mistake? What's the idea of holding yourself too rigidly, you know, losing your sense of humor on the path, pushing yourself, squeezing yourself so much and judging and criticizing yourself on the path? That's not about refinement, right? That's about judgment and criticism and negativity. And so think about this idea of refining ourselves, you know, like you're polishing. You got this stone. This is what we are, kind of crude stone right now. But you know what? I'm not crude stone in a bad way. Crude stone, well, that's okay. That's just where I am. But I'm polishing it constantly with my practice. I'm rubbing this side and rubbing this side. And eventually it really starts to take form and shine of the jewel that you are. The jewel that you contain right now at your core. That's there. It's just what happens is I've got veils of obscuration that cover over and tell me other stories, all rooted in the fundamental ignorance. I mistake, I have a misknowing, K-N-O-W, of reality. But that's all. That's just a fact. That's how it works, according to this tradition. According to this tradition. So if I'm operating from there with realism, like, okay, here I am, you know, and here I am, like for my situation right now, as some of you know, I'm moved and I'm working at the center, and there's been enormous challenges that some days I'm just don't feel that happy with some of the work and the things, but then I kind of, every moment it's a new moment. Every moment I get a new take on my mind to kind of redirect my mind and say, hey, what better thing could I be doing than following the advice of my teacher, helping this center that can serve so many living beings? What's the problem? Like when you see reorienting, there's my perspective. I just brought in the first pillar, perspective. Well, that actually sounds pretty great. And that's actually what I want to do in life. So, so then you go, well, what happened? What's the problem? Oh, because this person said something different, or this person misinterpreted what you said. Hey, that's community. That's life in community with people, human beings, which means they're operating with imbalances just like me. So as I refine, and then here comes the word tolerance. First of all, so I start with that fourth pillar of mine. I'm accepting myself and my limitations. There's many times in this process when we're working with a really nice group of people, incredible, dedicated group of people. I really, really like them all. And somehow we'll be kind of talking about something, and then we'll look at each other, and I'll see at one point somebody look, and I'll say, I don't really know what to suggest. And that's okay. Like, that's where I am. And they accept that. And so, but me accepting myself, if I'm not going to be some perfect, I'm a Buddha leader, I'm not, I'm not even the leader here. I'm just part of the team. So from the acceptance, and then here comes, we mess up, made a mistake. Somebody said the wrong thing to that person. She misinterpreted it. That's just community. And people say, well, you're Buddhists. Aren't you all enlightened and happy and joyful? Please. We are Buddhists. We're not Buddhas, not yet, but we're on the path. So the more I can kind of find the tolerance in myself, if there's somebody that does something you're not overly thrilled, but I can tolerate that. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not any lower than me. I do the same thing, actually, sometimes. I can see that in my mind. And then if I want to place a little humor in there, where I'm able to laugh at myself when I do it, I'm lighter with them. And if I have the humility operating, to say, I don't know any more than these people. I mean, I'm here for my role. I've got a certain, maybe they see as an expertise, and they each have their expertise that I find super valuable, and I learn so much from them. So it's like, I'm not any better than anybody here. Can I learn? I can learn from everybody. So you got all those operating. Then come the acceptance and the forgiveness. So when people blow it, and people will, they just do, and I myself included, I'm ready to forgive. I'm ready to move into that space, because the other option is when you don't, you continue to victimize yourself, and you allow whatever you see that wronged you to hold you hostage. You continue, the more you hold on and can't forgive. So I like the idea of this in the video, the refined. When you're refined, you see forgiveness as strength. Who doesn't want to sign up for that? And I love when Archbishop Desmond Tutu says, if you're not interested in that, maybe it's because you've never tried to forgive. So that's something to think about. And then think about tolerance, and think about, it takes a lot of strength to forgive. I think it's easy to hold on to being a victim, and easy to hold on to the hurt, and then you ruminate, because they did this to me. They did this to me. They caused this. And you're constantly holding that stone in your heart long time. So as some of you know, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and his daughter wrote the Book of Forgiveness. The Book of Forgiveness. And it's really powerful if this is an issue that you'd like to move into, and that you're struggling with forgiving. Like, people have issues with severe abuse. They were abused as a child, and very, very hard thing to forgive. And abuses of, there are interesting interviews I've watched with Holocaust victims of the apartheid regime in the Republic of South Africa before they were freed. What the torture, the horrible thing, victims of racism, victims of trafficking, all these things. And the ones that really rise above and end up with incredibly positive, meaningful lives have been able to find forgiveness for the perpetrators. And so I think that the Republic of South Africa, where Archbishop Desmond Tutu is from, as you know, was able to get themselves somewhat together. It's not perfect there. No, they have very high unemployment and crime, but people can more freely now, move around, especially the dark-skinned people that is the majority in the Republic of South Africa. And because they went through the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, so after all the abuse and all the torture, the abused people were able to talk to their abusers and tell their story, talk about how it made them feel, how it affected their family, themselves, and then be able to forgive and then let go. And some of them now, part of that cycle of forgiveness is you can choose to renew the relationship and have a relationship with the person, which some of them actually became friends, meaning the torturer and the tortured. And you can also choose that you're not going to continue that relationship. And that's okay. That's okay after you forgive. So for instance, if you were abused severely as a child and that person's still alive and in your life and is not really changing, you can certainly forgive them, but let it go and realize that maybe the level of toxicity is too much, that you're not able to have a healthy relationship with them. Even though you may accept them, you may have forgiven them, that's absolutely okay. Absolutely okay. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu and his daughter talk about a fourfold process of forgiveness, which is, again, number one, to be able to tell your story to the torturer, if it's possible, if they're still alive. I've actually done some processes myself in meditation with a person that had passed away. Okay, so I visualize them in front of me, which you can do as well if they're gone or if they don't want to do the work with you. But what to do is, if you can get the person in front of you, get somebody safe with you that will be there with you, and you make an agreement to meet. And that's what they did in the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions and in that work. A lot of companies have done that work. A lot of communities, I've been involved in that in communities as well, to do the work. As long as it's a safe container for everyone, you tell your story. What happened to you? What the person did to you? You tell your story, okay? Hopefully they can hear it. Sometimes they've agreed, they're willing to show up and they're going to hear it. They do this work right now, very, very helpful in prison conflict, between also prisoners, murderers, especially with the victims' families of the victims that they've killed, or in the cases of rape and harm and things like that, where they're really working through, where these families are forgiving. The person in prison is transforming. It's the most transformative work. It's the only way prisons will work with crime to get out of that is to start discussing, talking, meeting like that with a compassionate framework as much as possible. So, nonviolent resolution and things like that. A lot of these things that you've heard about. So first you tell the story. Number two, you name the hurt. How do you feel? What's happened to you since then? How is it working? And the third fold is to forgive your mind, that you're practicing letting it go, letting it go. The fourth one is you can then choose to renew the relationship with the person and go and try to find a healthy way to have a relationship, or you can decide whether you state it to them or not, you're not going to continue a relationship. That's okay. Here's what he mentioned in the book, though, is it can be very challenging that with the forgiveness, you may feel you've done a really good job, and you wake up the next morning and realize that you need to forgive again. That's okay. It's a process. It's a process. Okay, so let me talk a little bit more about forgiveness. So when we accept the present, we can forgive and release the desire for a different past. Okay, think about that. When we accept the present, we can forgive and release the desire for a different past. Quite powerful words from the book. A lot of what happens is Rumination is about the past. You go over and over and over things that keep you up at night that happened. Okay. So you want something different, but you're not going to create it with the thoughts about the past. Fear and anxiety, I think, are related to the future. Fear and anxiety seem to be rooted in what's going to come, the unknown, what might happen. This could happen. I'm not prepared for this. I may not perform well. It's all about the future. We're missing the present moment. How am I in the present? How's it going? Not happy right now. Quite happy. Quite balanced, whatever. So if I, again, can face what's going on, that this happened to me in the past, what do I need to do right now? That's where forgiveness comes in. What's my work? What's possible for me to do right now? So you let go of, I wish it could have been, staying, it's not different. This is what happened in the past. Okay, whatever karma got created, that's what it caused. But here I am right now, and I can change it, holding me hostage in future moments where I'm still dwelling in that. I still have fear that that's going to come up. I have fear that person will be there. I have fear they won't understand. From Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he says, why we forgive, by letting go of past hurts, we can heal not only ourselves, but our families, our communities, our world. Think if the planet could get into forgiveness more. Pretty extraordinary. Forgiveness is a gift we offer to another, but it can be a gift that has strings attached. The strings we attach to the gift of forgiveness become the chains that bind us to the person who harmed us. Okay, so if you've got this forgiveness with strings, you're not purely forgiving, and you're still going to be wrapped up in the trip with them. Okay. Unconditional forgiveness is forgiveness as grace. Okay, a free gift that's freely given. Unconditional forgiveness. Again, think of the word grace. It's really an offering you give somebody. Okay. So in this model, forgiveness frees the person who inflicted the harm, frees the person who inflicted the harm. And you might say, why do I want to free them? Okay, it frees them from the weight of the victim's whim, what the victim may demand in order to grant forgiveness. Okay, and it also frees them from the victim's threat of vengeance, from vengeance. Like Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, well, normally it was when you got hit, you hit back. And then we have this saying from the Bible, an eye for an eye. An eye for an eye, right? So then nobody can see. Right? So it's not helpful. Not helpful, those kind of things. Again, unconditional forgiveness is in Buddhism, we're again, this term bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, again, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu, when you step into someone else's shoes, he said, that's your refined being. Okay, we would say that's the bodhisattva path, to step into someone else's experience, to think of them before yourself. To think of them before yourself. Okay. So I'm now thinking, can I release this person from their fear of that I'm going to get them back? I'm going to find a way secretly or openly to get them back. Okay, I'm going to demand something of them. That's not unconditional forgiveness. That's something to think about when you want to forgive. So first of all, there's this thing of, freeing them from the weight of my whim of somehow it's going to come back I'm going to get them back at some point. It's not going to be a free place for your mind, you, the wronged person. Okay. But it also, unconditional forgiveness, it frees the one who forgives. It frees the one who forgives. The one who offers forgiveness as a grace is immediately untethered from the yoke that bound him, her, or they to the person who caused the harm. Okay. When you forgive, you are free to move on in life. You're free to grow. You're free to no longer be a victim. Your future's unshackled from your past. It's huge. Okay. Okay, so I want to just show another video, piece of a video. I will share my screen.
What
This is a
do you
younger
actually
Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and it's kind of really nice to see him. I remember when. So let me just share this. Here we go.
when you forgive someone? Well, basically, you're saying, I am abandoning my right I mean, by the fact that you have abused me, you have hurt me, or whatever it is that you have done, you have wronged me, that you have given me a certain right, as it were, over you, that I could refuse to forgive you. I could say I have the right to refuse. When I forgive, I say I jettison that right. I open the door of opportunity to you to make a new beginning. That is what I do when I forgive you. The Buddhists talk of letting go of the past, dying to the past when you forgive, of letting loose of the sorrow that you have brought with you from the past. Is that what you're talking about? The thing is, of course, that I don't know that you yourself are able, by an act of will, as it were, to let go of the pain. The will part of it, where your will is deliberately to say, I am not going to let you rise me and hold me in a position where I have an anger against you, a resentment, and I am looking for the opportunity to pay back. I am saying I want to let go of that right, and begin to work for the possibility of restoring the relationship. Do I have to do anything, the person being forgiven? For your own sake, the only way you can appropriate forgiveness is by confessing.
So quite powerful when you think of, it releases you if you're forgiving. So it's a very different mindset from a lot of the way our culture operates. That again, I was a little bit disturbed when 9/11 happened. Well, we were all disturbed, but I was out of the country, actually trying to get back into the country, but I was told the United States was closed. Right? Have you ever heard that before? At the airline counter is what we were told. So, and what I finally got to a TV to see our president at the time talking about vengeance, like saying, well, we're going to show them. That was the response. So how sad, I thought, because we had an opportunity to dialogue, to ask the people that had done this to us, kind of, what do you want? What's like, can we talk? But instead of it's just, we're going to get back. So if you're a kid who sees that on TV, but it's the president, then you feel like it's condoned, that vengeance is a way to go. But again, it holds you hostage. And again, you're always tethered to that person that harmed you. So I really like when Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness talk about the release that you get, that the potential release that's there. And again, if you need to be forgiven, can you confess? Can you apologize? Is that possible for you? I find it a huge space of mind. I've just noticed running centers, and I'm not running this center right now, but in the past of running centers, there's guests that show up, and there's problems, and staff get upset about things, and they want someone to blame. It's kind of, for some people, it's just a natural tendency, maybe from our culture. So often they'll blame the person at top, making the decisions, the director, a lot of times. And I many times just easily apologize because I don't mean to disturb anyone. I don't have all the answers. And I'll just say, the reason I made this decision was because of this, but, I'm sorry, maybe I made a mistake. And I'll certainly get opinions at times if I don't know, like that. But you can just easily apologize. And we have this Lojong statement. Lojong is mind training, very famous one. Offer the victory to others. Offer the victory to others. Now, again, please put it in context. Please put it in the proper context, meaning offer the victory to others is, it's not that you're giving up and that your opinion doesn't matter and that the other person might not have done something wrong and things, but it diffuses tension and conflict. And we need to start dialoguing from there with the diffused tension and conflict. If you're dug into your sides and I'm kind of like, I know I was right, so I'm not going to apologize or say, and this person's wrong. If you just stay there, you're going to end up polarized. But if I can eventually just say, okay, that's what they believe. I understand. I'm so sorry. Whether I think I did something wrong or not, I can always say I'm sorry for whatever tension, whatever disturbance to the mind, whatever I've created that disturbed their mind. Absolutely, I'm sorry for that. But then slowly from there, and I found there was, for instance, one guest came, she stayed 3 weeks with us at another center. And she had a lot of complaints throughout the 3 weeks. We tried everything she wanted to please her. Nothing was right. At the end, she demanded to see the director, that was me at the time, came in with a 5-minute tirade of what was wrong. And I just listened. And as soon as she kind of took a breath, at one point, I just started apologizing, which she didn't expect. She wanted to fight. Like, it was a way she went through space. She wanted to kind of fuel this, and she was hoping, attack me and then I'll start fighting. And I just profusely apologized. I really was sorry. We didn't do anything wrong. I didn't think so. I had heard all the few weeks from our staff what was happening. So but I was really sorry that we didn't meet her expectations and that she was so upset and that it wasn't what she had thought it would be. And I really went through this a few times, and she had no fuel on the fire to continue. So it kind of stopped her in her tracks. And then we started dialoguing. And then she started saying, well, it wasn't that bad. And because there wasn't any tension from my side. There wasn't a wall she kept banging into that. So we have to try to harmonize on the planet, and it may mean offering the victory. But in this just case of forgiveness, think of the release from your side that you can achieve, the moving into the present. And I loved what Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, to renew the relationship, to find a new, and I'm going to add, healthier future for mostly for you, but think about you going forward with less of that abuser in your mind continuing to hold you hostage or continuing to be tethered to them. Very powerful place for you. Very, very powerful. So let me go on a little bit. Okay, and as His Holiness said, the invitation to forgive is not an invitation to forget. Okay, so something did happen to you. So again, if you're in the face of an abuser and they're a family member that you still live with, you don't forget, and you need to protect yourself because you didn't forget. But it doesn't mean that you can't forgive and come from a more spacious heart, mind experience. But it's not about just like that never happened. That's why it's important, I think, with that fourfold path of forgiveness, to tell your story, for other people to bear witness to your story of what happened, especially the abuser. But you can untether yourself from it through forgiveness again and again. So forgiveness is also, it's not an invitation to claim that an injury is less hurtful than it really is. We're not minimizing your story. We're not saying, well, I mean, her whole family was brutalized and you were just raped. So, you know, her family was murdered. So that's more important. No, we're not saying that. It's also not a request to paper over a deep fissure in a relationship, you know, to say it's okay when it's not. That's not forgiveness. It's not okay to be injured. It's not okay to be abused. It's not okay to be violated. It's not okay to be betrayed. So that's not what forgiveness is. But really this release, very strong release, it's an invitation to find healing and peace. Healing and peace. And I would, if you're interested, has anybody seen or heard about Ava, is it Core, the Holocaust survivor? Some of you may have seen videos. I can play one in maybe next week or something. She talks about her experience. This is a woman that went to Auschwitz with her family. She was a twin. So who was the doctor, Mengele, is that how you say his name? Who did experiments on twins in concentration camps. And she talks about it and talks about how she has survived with forgiveness, to let go that past of what, you know, and these are atrocities, you know, but EVA, and her last name is K-O-R, if you're interested to watch her passage, her path. So here's what happens when you don't forgive. Let's think about this. Unforgiveness robs us of our ability to enjoy and appreciate our life because we're trapped in a past filled with anger and bitterness. Okay? Forgiveness, including self-forgiveness, allows us to move beyond the past and appreciate the present. Okay. We are going to go to some breakout groups. And let me just find my exercises here. Here we go. I just want to read something from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, his story, okay? There were so many nights when I, as a young boy, had to watch helplessly as my father verbally and physically abused my mother. I can still recall the smell of alcohol, see the fear in my mother's eyes, and feel the hopeless despair that comes when we see people we love hurting each other in incomprehensible ways. If I dwell in those memories, I can feel myself wanting to hurt my father back in the same ways he hurt my mother, and in ways in which I was incapable as a small boy. I see my mother's face, and I see this gentle human being whom I love so very much and who did nothing to deserve the pain inflicted upon her. So one night, upon returning from a long trip, the Archbishop received a phone call from his father saying that there was something he wanted to tell him. The Archbishop was exhausted and planned to visit his parents the next day. So he asked that could they talk, could they speak then? So early the next morning, the Archbishop received a call from his niece saying his father had died. So he said, so I've never known what it was he wanted to tell me. And I have a very deep regret. Sometimes I shed a tear or two. So what I'd like you to do in these breakout groups, and there are, okay, so we'll go back to our 6 groups of 3 people, 3 or 4 people, something like that, 20. Yeah, so there might be a couple extra people. So what I want to say about when you're in breakout groups, let's consider this. You're going to have 10 minutes. If there's 3 or 4 people, you can speak. There may be a group with 2, but you can speak just as it naturally comes up in conversation, but do consider when you're speaking, okay, to be concise with what you're saying, because there's other people that need to speak. Okay, so it's not just about you airing all your views. Can you practice active listening in the group, really listening to the other people, making sure they have a turn to speak. It's really, really helpful. At the end, when I close you out of the groups, there'll be a prompt that you get 60 more seconds. You're welcome to come back before that, but at 60 seconds, if somebody's in the middle of a sentence, you're gonna come back to the group. It's automatic. So I just wanted to explain that. So try to finish up in that time and be compassionate about how you conduct yourselves in the group. It would be really great. Okay, so here's some things I want you to think about. Who needs forgiveness? Who needs compassion? Is anyone beyond forgiveness? Has there been a time in your life where forgiveness or compassion, because compassion is another pillar of the heart, were the pathways to healing? And think about a person you might hold a grudge against. If you want, write your forgiveness intentions on a piece of paper. Okay, recognizing this is not a quick fix, this is a process. Okay, but the first step is the intention to forgive. And lastly, can you think of something for which you have not forgiven yourself yet? Feel free to write that down. Okay, so just try your best. And I am going to assign you as best as I can. Let's see. Oops. Oh, it's only giving me 2 rooms. Now, why is that? Here we go again. Oh, add a room. Got it. Okay, I've got 7 rooms. So let me try this. Open all rooms. Here we go. It's not letting me assign some people. I'm not sure why some people aren't able to get to a room. Okay. We're almost there. Okay, so Sherry and Lamo, are you going to a room? Can you join the rooms? Let's see, I put them in rooms, but
You have Lamo in room 6.
yeah, and I have her in room 4 as well for some reason. So, okay, but somehow they're still showing up here, which means they haven't gone to their rooms. Can you both go to your rooms, to the breakout rooms, please? Do you want to unmute and let us know what's happening? I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. I think people are in their rooms. I take it. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. So should we stop the recording for a moment? Coaching capacity. Thanks. In a coaching capacity, is Mary's question is, what do you do if you're facing a perpetrator that you don't feel safe with? And the main thing is to get people there you feel safe with. So there's mediator, there is, sorry.
Actually meant is what if you just don't want to meet with your perpetrator at all?
Okay.
Like how do you forgive just from, without involving the abuser?
Okay, absolutely. You could write a letter to them. Sometimes people suggest that, write a letter. And then the other thing I suggest is doing a visualization with them again and again. Put them in front of you and visualize whoever else you want in front of you that you feel safe with, right? Absolutely. You can build that right into your visualization. Tell them what you want to tell them. But can you tell them? You may at first tell them with rage and anger and sobbing. That's perfectly fine. But can you eventually move out of the rage and things to just tell them kind of gently, compassionately, this is what's going on for me. This is what you did. This is how I felt. And you might need to do that visualization again and again and again. But here's the thing, it changes your mind. You're working on your mind. I can't tell all of you how powerful that is. And one example I have from my own life, and I've heard this with other people, this is not unique to me, but I had a friend, an ex-partner years ago. We parted in tremendous anger. He was very, very angry at me. And we didn't speak for 12 years. And this was a person who was like my best friend. But whatever happened, we parted in tremendous anger from his side. And then I wrote letters. The letters came back unopened, returned, just on and on. I tried different things and I let it go. And then after a while, I thought I need to clear this, I need to do something. And so I did visualizations, not all the time, maybe over the course of like a few months. I put him across from me and I over and over said what I needed to say, asking for forgiveness. That whatever he was holding, over and over, just talking about it, with him in front of me. And at one point I felt clear, I apologized, I said what I needed to say, that I apologized for the confusion and whatever I had done, and really tremendously feeling it again and again and again, just even silently sometimes, just apologizing in my mind with him there and saying what I needed to say, talking about how much I appreciated his friendship and who he was, and over and over. And then eventually I felt cleared of it. I felt like, I think I've done the work. I can't really do anymore. Like I've said what I needed to say and I let it go. And a week later, he contacted me in friendship. I'm not kidding, after 12 years. I mean, I remember being like, it was just really surprising, or, something. And he's one of my best friends today. Like, so somehow, honestly, those kind of situations convince me more and more everything comes from the mind. So you change your mind, the external has the potential to change, including those relationships with people.
Thanks. That was a really great answer.
Who else? What other things from your groups, please, from your breakout groups, that anybody would like to comment on, or anything surprising, anything challenging?
One thing that came up in my group is accepting one's own role in a relationship. And when that role causes a chain reaction, forgiving the other person while also forgiving yourself.
Yes.
And forgiving yourself for expectations you may have had in the past or also in the now was also a big thing.
Fantastic. Beautiful. And do you pronounce it Aaron, your name?
Yeah, Aaron.
Saying it right, Aaron? Okay. Thank you very much. Aaron, where do you live?
New York.
New York. Okay, great. Thank you. That's really beautiful. No, very powerful. Like, because one of the lines was, what haven't you forgiven yourself for? And we miss that step. So often I'm holding somebody out there like they did this to me, they did, but because there's something I'm not letting go in myself. So absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Any last comment about how were your breakout groups today? I'm teasing you.
It
I
was
tried to
great,
move you around,
great
but
being with the New Yorkers.
oh, I
Aaron,
put you with the New Yorkers. Okay.
Aaron and Matt.
Oh, great, great. The New Yorkers are fun bunch. Absolutely.
Jeff was very happy to be on our group again.
Oh, and who was together with you guys? Was
Jeff.
oh, Jeff? That's
Yes.
right. You had the last time. Yeah, Jeff's. Yeah, you guys.
Yeah, that
It's
was
funny.
good.
I try to move you guys around just to meet different people because we're in Zoom, you can't come in a Gompa and see other people, which creates a community. So sometimes it's nice to have a little, at least a Zoom community. And some people have contacted each other or found each other like that.
We did talk about the forgiving yourself and how difficult that can be, and you know how a lot of times we're so hard on ourselves, and you know we wouldn't treat other people the way we treat ourselves.
That's right. That's right. So if you want to get into self-compassion techniques, which I have taught courses to some of you on that, I'm doing that again in May in a weekend for our center in South France, self-compassion, where, you know, one exercise that Kristen Neff talks about is being your own friend. How would you treat yourself if you were your best friend? So meaning when you have a friend who's struggling and they come to you, and think about the tone of our voice and how kind we are to them and listening to them and, oh, what's going on? And, but then when we're struggling like that, we're really hard on ourselves. You know, is that appropriate really? Is that where you want to be? So I think that's a great point you're bringing up, Jeff, in your group with Ross and Kelly, and, you know, that we're often really cruel to ourselves as well. And that's not what we're trying to do. Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for participating. Okay, I want to talk about now, and there's a lot more we can say about, wait, where's my other, whoops, I'm in the wrong slide here. About forgiveness, we could go on and on, but I want to talk about gratitude right now, which is our next pillar. Here we go. Gratitude. Gratitude is the elevation of enjoyment. Okay, the ennobling of enjoyment. Just think, you know, we know what gratitude is. Like it's also gratitude is the recognition of all that holds us in the web of life, all that has made it possible to have the life that we have and the moment we're experiencing. You know, so one thing that this comes from that reminds me of is, as many of you know, is in order to get enlightened, you need to practice something called the 6 perfections. You need to perfect that behavior. Generosity, joyful effort, patience, enthusiastic perseverance, concentration, and wisdom, the 6 perfections. Oh, sorry, the second is ethical behavior, So generosity comes first. And we are going to talk about generosity a little later, but it kind of goes with gratitude for me as well. And the reason it's first, generosity of the 6 perfections, is it's from which all the Dharma flows with generosity. So it has to be first, because when you're really perfecting and practicing that, and there's many ways we're generous, this is not just about a money thing. There's many ways we're generous, is all of the spiritual realizations flow from there. That. So with gratitude, but think about ennobling enjoyment in life, you know, making a positive mind state possible. Okay. And again, I love how it says it holds us in the web of life and all that has made it possible to have the life that we've had and the moment we're experiencing. You know, in a sense, every moment is a gift. Can you come into that? Every moment is a gift. The gift within every gift is the opportunity it offers us. So, I mean, it's a strong experience where, and I know that recently I was, talking to some people. People were asking me about the center and the struggles and things, and so, and there's times when a part of my mind might just say, I don't really want to do this. This is too hard. I don't want to do it. And then some things show up that I may label hard. I may label difficult, or I may label, I don't want to do this, right? And then sometimes the jewel starts gleaming. And this could be the jewel from here, my Buddha nature. We all have it in us. That I mentioned, you're polishing, you're refining, right? And what happens is occasionally one facet may get a little clear, and some light gleams out, okay? Some kind of enlightened experience that shows me, like illuminates something. And then I go, this is really cool. Like, it doesn't get much, but this is an opportunity. This is a gift, in the gratitude of really, I remember like living in Pennsylvania, and I could go back there, possibly, but living in Pennsylvania during that first year of the pandemic, and I got off the road after 16 years. So I never really had that kind of downtime in years. And there was something great about the rest I got, because I think I really needed it. That's valuable. But there was something nagging at me almost every day of, is there a better way for me to serve? Is there some way I can be doing something more beneficial? Because a lot of it was I was teaching and focused on students and doing this coaching on the side. But I did wonder whether there's, sometimes I have a bigger capacity. Is there a center that really needs help? And the people at the center, and not just me alone, I'm not any Messiah person, but could I work with a team that could help something? And so there was always, when I went to sleep at night, am I doing it, like, was I hiding out a little bit? So when I think about that and that mind state coming here, and when I go to bed at night, I'm like, I use the day as meaningfully as possible. I really invested. So gratitude comes from there. And can I appreciate, that every moment is a gift, even the most difficult moments. So now I'm not saying you're abused, that moment is a gift. No. But again, with the really hardcore practitioners that have worked with Lojong mind training for years, okay, you see any negative turmoil you're experiencing as deep purification. Okay, so that's more of an extreme level. And I'm not asking you to move into abuse. This is not about being a masochist. It's just that suffering is going to come, as we know, in samsara. And when it comes, how will I meet it? And we can meet it with gratitude. There are high-level practitioners I know that ask for problems. Yes, like down on their knees, asking for problems. I think it was a little, and I'm not a high-level practitioner, but there was a part of my mind in Pennsylvania, or just during that pandemic year that, and we're still in the pandemic, that was a little bit asking to turn up the volume on my practice, through, knowing that it would be, knowing serving centers, because I've done it for years. And I know that there's many, many challenges, many times, many challenges that I might in my mind say, I don't like this. Okay. But that's just the I saying they don't like it, which doesn't really exist. It's just a hallucination. So again, if I can show up with gratitude, let's look a little bit more at gratitude. And one thing before we close, I do want to mention, we're going to close soon, is I'd really love you to continue this week as homework to think about forgiveness. What didn't get covered for you tonight? Again, what do you need? Please keep exploring. What are you not forgiving yourself for? How would you like to do that work? Who else are you not forgiving? Who are you holding to some major other level that continues to hold your mind in a vice? What's going on for you? And then let's look at gratitude, which tends to loosen up that experience of holding rigidly that somebody's harmed. I'm always harmed. I'm a victim. What are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? And get creative. I'd love to hear the creativity. Okay. When you're grateful, you're not fearful. When you're not fearful, you're not violent. Okay. When you're grateful, you act out of a sense of enough and not out of a sense of scarcity. And you're willing to share. If you're grateful, you're enjoying the differences between people, and you're respectful to all people. A grateful world is a world of joyful people. And that's from the Benedictine monk and scholar David Steindl-Rast. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right. So some beautiful experiences of gratitude, and we're going to look at a little bit more of that next week. Any last questions before we close? Just open up our gallery here. Kelly, you had a question or no? You were just adjusting your glasses. Okay. Anything else remaining right now? Okay. Well, lovely to see all of you. And I want to thank Shantideva. I want to thank Sheila and Sunny for being here as part of the Shantideva team. They're wonderful. They're very organized. It's fantastic. And thank you to all of you. And I would like to dedicate, please, in closing, that may, for all the beings on the planet right now, there's so many. I just want to list a few names that are bubbling up in my mind. A dear friend, Rowena Meyer, who for years was the director of our Santa Fe Center. So she is in hospice now, passing away. We could please, she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. Ross Lasley, who's here with us, and Arunas, who is the director of our Toronto Center, who's got some very serious health challenges now. Venerable Punsok is an Israeli monk who is in a coma with a serious brain injury in Israel. So if we can just direct energy, there's many, many more people I could list right now. Also those who've passed away. And may these beings be healed. May their minds be healed, whether the physical body can be healed or not. But may they refine themselves to a point where they can have great transitions or great lives and meaningful lives, as well as all of us. And may we roll whatever merit we have created in this time together into our practices to help us quickly get enlightened so we can benefit all living beings. So please, if you can explore gratitude, notice when you're not feeling grateful and when gratitude's not arising. What's going on? Just look around like that. When it look around in your mind, what's happening? What happened? What shut down? What door closed suddenly? How could you get that door opened and experience and basically really celebrate? We have so much, all that we have, all that we are. How about that? All that we are as well. You have so many good qualities. Why not start focusing on the good qualities instead of obsessing about the mistakes you make? Okay. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you next week. And if you'd like, there's a meditation Saturday morning, 9:30 to 10:30, which is Pacific time. Every Saturday, I lead a meditation. You can register at landofmedicinebuddha.org. 9:30 to 10:30, so 12:30 to 1:30 East Coast time, if you're interested. 8 a.m. Saturday mornings for a half an hour, I lead the COVID practices that you can also find on my website, amymiller.com. And you can just click on that link and go to those practices and join us. And I share my screen with all the texts if you'd like to do that. And there's some other things coming up in the spring as well. And there's another course starting for Florida in February, starting soon. So please feel free to join.